All right. So, as my mom would say, what happened to that child, right? And I will tell you what happened to that child. This is an image of my father and mother, and I will take you on a little journey, see if I can paint pictures with words. I'm pretty sure I can probably take you there. My story began in El Paso, Texas. My grandparents are from Juarez, Chihuahua, border town to El Paso. And initially, my mother, I was conceived in Mexico, and thank God to my grandparents and their dream to gain passports, my mother just skipped and hopped across the border and gave me life in El Paso, Texas, which made me a U.S. citizen. That was very grateful of my grandfather, because with the immigration laws of today, I probably would have been deported a long time ago. And so, because of my criminal activity. And so, anyways, it's like any little young kid, this is the pictures that I create. My father was not an evil man. He was just an individual. Initially, he was a loving, caring, understanding man that I looked up to and that I admired. I was his little king initially. My father was a construction worker. And I would see, and I can still remind myself of how he will embrace my mother and kiss her in those cheeks, and that was a symbol of love. And that's what a man looks like. Eventually, what happened, and my dad would say, "Mira, mijito," he would leave me with my aunt, and he would go build homes. And across the way, there were some apartment complexes that he would build. He was a great construction worker, so from foundation to rooftop. And he would say, "Look, son, I'm gonna wear this green hat. So when you see me with this green hat, you know where I'm at, okay? But I don't want you hanging by the windowsill. You're getting too close," because I would admire him all day as he's building these beautiful homes. And I would say, "Apa, ¿qué pasó, mijo? Bring me a toy." And he would say, "Okay, now get your ass inside. You're going to fall out the window," right? And so as he would do this to me, I remember waiting eagerly and waiting for the toy that I would ask. At that time, I was in a WWF wrestling ring, and of course, wrestling ring. And I realized that my parents were immigrants. They cannot afford those Mattel-type toys. But my father was creative, and for his son, his king, he would do anything. So I would be eagerly waiting for the toy, and he would come and say, "Look, mijo, I got you a toy, but it's probably not the one you saw on TV, but this is probably even better." So he'll give me this toy, and there would be a wrestling ring made out of the scraps of construction site, made out of wood with 4 nails and the snap line to make the little rings. And that's the wrestling ring. That's love. And of course, I was raised by my grandparents as well, who taught me everything about the values of life, how to respect self, how to respect others, the religion aesthetics, the Virgin Mary will forever take care of you, get on your knees and pray, all that good stuff. And of course, like every immigrant family, LA sounds good. Big city, more opportunity. Why don't we move to Los Angeles? And so here I am at 5, leaving my grandparents behind, and I think that's when the disorganized attachment began, because I cannot no longer run to my grandparents for the consoling, the nurturing, and the love that they would give in times of trial. But what can go wrong as long as you're with your parents, right? So you say to yourself. And we arrived in the housing projects of Aliso, Pico Aliso, which looked like this at one point. In the 80s, crack cocaine epidemic, the decade of violence, and growing up in the projects at the age of 5, trying to contain my innocence. My father, now no longer, it seems as if I lost my crown because I was no longer his little king. My father was now trying to make ends meet to provide for his family, in this case, my brother and myself. And my father found himself in every dead end because of being an immigrant, no longer can he gain construction jobs. So his best thinking said, well, might as well start transporting drugs from Juarez to El Paso to Los Angeles. So my father became a drug dealer. And all I wanted was his love, his affection, and everything he would give me when we were in Texas. And if it meant that I stand by him as he will cut up the heroin, then so be it. He would tell me now, "Son, this is sticky heroin, powder heroin. Don't you climb those cabinets, that's where the guns are at. I don't need you touching none of that." "Okay, Dad." And then he would say to me, "Mijo, someone's coming in the back door. I need you to take this balloon and slide it under their door. Make sure you get the money first." "Okay, Dad," running down the hallway. "You got the money?" Put the money. "Here's the heroin." "Here, Dad." "Good job, mijo. Now go ahead and go play." And for me, I just wanted his love and his affection. And if it meant that, so be it. Then my dad gradually started to shift and change. And I was like, whoa, this man's no longer the man that I looked up to. Although he was selling heroin, I can tell he was hyper-vigilant. And now he's no longer paying attention or being attentive. He's becoming aggressive, not knowing what it was. And my mom would say, "Look, Shorty, this is not good. It's impacting our children. This is not good for Fabian. It's not good for us, our family. And my dad would say, "Pa, want to eat?" Domestic violence comes in. And then my mom would find herself miserable in the room crying, and I will come and console her, sit next to her, and rub her little shoulder and say, "It's going to be okay, Ma." And she goes, "I don't understand what's happening." So then one day my dad comes right back in, boom, yelling and screaming, and my mom says, "Shorty, please stop." And he starts to beat her so bad, boom, and I can hear my mom, "Déjame, Shorty, no me golpees, por favor." And I'm startled, and I'm like, and 5, 6 years old, and I'm not knowing what to do. So I run and I jump on my mother to protect her from my father. He grabs me by the t-shirt and he slams me across the wall. Boom. That's when I realized that not only did I become, that I was helpless to my mom, but that's right there and then when I became hopeless. And I remember the second time around, my dad will come and screaming and pounding and kicking down the doors, and I say, "Here it goes again." I could not help my mom, so I would go and hide under a coffee table with a long drape and my little notebook. And that's when I would create my own worlds to escape my reality. Art. I found my gift. Art gave me meaning. It gave me self-worth. It was my big brother, and no one can take that from me. So I remember my mom said, "Mijo, you have talent. Can you draw this? If you draw Mickey Mouse, if you master it, I'll go get you Woody Woodpecker. And then we'll go get, Pluto," and so on and so forth. And my mom did not believe I would draw Mickey Mouse without tracing. She's like, "You traced it." And I go, "No, I didn't." She goes, "Do it in front of me then." And so I would. And then she goes, "Now we got to go get Pluto." So this is my mom infusing the arts. And then, of course, like any kid, you go to Dolores Mission Catholic School, and my mom put me in school to get an education so that I can be, go to Dolores Mission, end up in Salesian, and hopefully in Bosco Tech one day. Ideal dream. But the dream was impacted by the trauma that I was introduced to already at the age of 5. So in 3rd grade, I would go and do my schoolwork, and 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 4 = a drawing, not to be drawing in class, get your ass to the principal's office. 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, constantly drawing in class. I was escaping what was taking place in my household. The teachers never took the time to ask the proper question, but they were quick to punish and penalize me for what I love to do, in this case, art. 8th grade comes a teacher. 2 weeks into graduation, just about to give my mama that glimpse of that dream, right? And 2 weeks into graduation, I'm in class, and the teacher comes around and he goes, "Fabian, you're not to be drawing in class." Damn, same shit. I've been told this since 3rd grade. So then not only is the teacher embarrassing me, but he's challenging me in front of my colleagues. And I remember when the colleagues were like, "Ooh, what are you going to do now, fool?" pumping me up. So I said, "Shit, I'm going to continue to draw." So I continue to draw, and teacher comes and slaps my desk, boom, grabs my drawing, and he puts it in front of me, and he says, "What did I tell you? Stop drawing in class." I was like, ooh. He literally ripped my heart in half. That was my big brother. That was my gift. He reminded me of the time when I caught my father putting a syringe into his left arm. That sense of betrayal. But the difference was that this man was not my father. So I get up, I grab a desk, and I throw it at the teacher. Boom! Now the teacher had high blood pressure, right? So he used to eat lifesavers to control his sugar levels throughout the day. So I remember when I threw the desk at him, he's like, "Fabian!" Bloop! Looked like a fish out of water going through convulsion. And I'm like, ooh, shit, this dude's dying in front of my eyes. And my colleagues are like, "Ooh, what are you going to do now, fool? Why don't you eat your lifesavers now, punk? Might save your life." Principal grabs me by the t-shirt, takes me to the principal's office, and Fabian is the bad kid. Fabian shouldn't have threw the desk at the teacher, but did the teacher ever get held accountable for ripping the artwork? No. So now Fabian has to go tell Mama, "Cancel the party, Mom. Fabian's no longer graduating." Kill the dream. Not only was I betrayed by my father, who could not protect me for the situations that I was dealing with growing up in the projects, also betrayed by my mother, who could not protect me from my father, also betrayed by my community, who didn't step up in the time of need. And now the teachers, F the world, got no one. But before they send their troubles away to public school, which I call the Lions Den, they called me across the street to go see this great man by the name of Father Greg Boyle. I met him when I was 10 years old. And when I walked into his rectory, at the time, Homeboy didn't even exist. Father Greg goes, "Man, what happened, son?" I said, "Look, G, this fool ripped my artwork, G, and no one's going to take that from me but me." And then G said, "Damn, son, I'm not going to be able to keep you in Catholic school. You're going to go to public school. But before you leave, son, I want you to do something for me. I go, what's that, Father Greg? I want you to go home and draw me something. I was like, what? For the very first time, I'm not being punished and penalized for what I love to do. He recognized my gift, my strength, and he returned it back to me. And maybe the best thing ever, because that's why I'm still an artist and doing art to this day, because a teacher could have destroyed me for the rest of my life. Eventually, I had to go on my journey. And because of the trauma, my father was in and out of prison. And I remember my weekends did not consist of playing baseball, basketball. It consisted of waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, making way to all the prisons, Wasco, Delano, Tehachapi, Ironwood. They would take me and my mother to a separate room, and they would put their hands on my mother's breast in private areas as if she was transporting drugs. And it's because of you, Dad, that my mom has to become violated like that. And so then eventually at the age of 12, I got jumped into a gang because I did not know which way to go. I could not find myself due to the traumatic events that were taking place. My mom had to deal with a heroin addict for 25 years, and now she's starting to deal with a gang member, drug addict son that's becoming. I got kicked out of every school in East LA and Boyle Heights, Belvedere, Hallenbach, and all that, so school was no longer of interest. And eventually, when that was taking place, I started to fall into the chains of gang culture. I didn't join a gang because I wanted to. That was never my career or choice. I didn't wake up one morning and say, hell yeah, when I wake up, when I'm gonna do, I'll be the best gang member in the whole world. You know, that's not it. It's because of trauma. 3 things that lead kids to join a gang, and Father Greg has told us this and shared with this. Mental illness leads to hopelessness. You know, disparity leads to hopelessness. Trauma. So those things are reasons why kids join gangs, because of hopelessness. And so that was me. I fell into disparity and trauma. You know, it's either one of those things or all 3 things combined. And so eventually I decided in time in 1994, no matter what aspect of life I was in, I always held on to my gift. And so then I found myself going to the LA River to create my forms in the form of graffiti art. But graffiti art was also vandalism, not to be writing on the walls. So every time I was finding myself in dead ends and dead ends and dead ends. So eventually I joined the gang, and as I was in the gang, I was caught up in the revolving door. I was becoming and acting like my father, just like him. And so I decided that maybe if I have a kid, my life would change. I said, that's what it is. I need a kid in my life, so my life would change. And so then here I am with these bright ideas. So I brought little Fabian Jr. to the world. And I remember his mother and me will be in one rep in a bedroom. And we will smoke crack together. And my kid will be crying in the other room. Wah, wah. And I used to tell his mom, why don't you go shut him the F up, man? He's messing up my high. My biological son, my blood. And eventually she left me. At 6 months, my son was taken from me with her. And then, as time went on, I'm at my mother's house. Poor mom, I put her through so much. And my mom was there to receive me, her consistency, Father Greg's consistency. And when I would go to my mom's house, I remember being at my mom's house, and she just didn't know how to deal with me. So I used to see this girl walk across the street, right? It's pretty funny, but it's kind of crude. I used to see this lady walk across the street. She was a young girl, actually. I was 25 years old. And I used to look in the mirror, and I said, I got this. I don't look that bad. All coked out, alcoholic, long hair, you know, look like a straight hippie zombie. And I used to see this girl walk on the block, and I said, you got it, fool, just find the courage. So then I go, all right, fool. So I run over there, I say, what's up, girl, what's your name? Elizabeth. I go, how old are you? 15. Hell no, that shit will give me 25. So I walked away, and then I said, and then she goes, I'm not going to tell. You messed up. So I took advantage of Elizabeth. 15-year-old, 25-year-old, took her in my home, and I said, I'll get you pregnant. So I got her pregnant at 15. Now, her father was upset, of course, who wouldn't be, and he said to me one day, he goes, you know what, I'm going to call the police. You know, you're older than her, and I told the father, say, if you can take care of my child for 10 years, feel free to call the police, because I'll be out in 10 years anyway. I guess he thought about it, huh? He's like, nah, fuck that, I ain't going to take care of the kid for 10 years. So he didn't call the police, but then I said, you know what it is? I need another kid in my life. Then I bought Andrew. I know what it is. I'm missing the little girl in my life. Then I brought Honesty. So Elizabeth was pregnant every year. And I was just making babies because I just could not find myself. I thought love came in that form. But I had to start working on me internally beforehand. I found a drug called methamphetamine, and if you see that drawing behind me, that's the Pookie, and that's an image, and that's how I'll express myself, and that's an image, a painting of me trapped inside the Pookie trying to find a way out. And although I was on drugs and everything that had happened in my life, I always held on to this gift. This gift saved my life on many levels, spiritually, mentally, and physically. I had many acts of suicide, fatal thoughts of suicide. And I remember after having all these kids, the way my life started to shift and change was because I could not live with the fact that I looked like my dad. Every time I look in the mirror, I can see the image of my dad, so I will start hitting myself in the face so hard because of you, Dad. This is what's happening in my life. And you know what? I cannot stand at the fact that I'm causing hurt to these children because I know exactly what that feels like. So I'd rather be dead than to continue to hurt these kids. In the garage, I was in the garage. My mom says, ¿Sabes qué, Fabián? Lárgate, cabrón. Vete de la casa, but go to the garage. She would kick me out and send me to the garage because for a mother, it's a double-edged sword. It's very difficult to kick their own son out of the house. And so when she kicked me out of the house, I would go to the garage, and I'm in the garage, and I'm smoking methamphetamine, and I can hear my children laughter and playing on the outside of the garage door. I had all these little peepholes in the garage as I'm looking, making sure police don't creep up, probation, parole, all that, all paranoid. And at this moment, I can hear laughter. Throw the ball, Andrew. Go get it, Honesty. And I'm listening to something that was probably missing in my life. So I get up quietly, and I go look out the peephole. And symbolically, I see my childhood, something that was missing in my life. I wanted to go out there and play with my kids, but the drugs, the insanity would not let me. And as I'm looking out that people, a beautiful and attracting voice comes, and it says, kill yourself. And it goes, kill yourself. And then it gets demonic. Kill yourself, you worthless piece of shit. Kill yourself. Start to believe that voice. So I step back quietly, go to the glass where the methamphetamine, I grab a blade, slip my wrist up the way I was taught to try to hit the main artery. Once I hit that blade and I slip my wrist, I start to faint and I kick the garage door open, boom, and all they see is my kids holding the ball and watching their father run across the yard full of blood to his mom. Mom, Mom. And my mom calls me all these beautiful names in Spanish. She takes me to the hospital, and I cannot wait to get back to the garage so I can continue drug using. I didn't change that day. Second suicide attempt. Besides the one, that drawing actually was one that at one time in the same garage, I was sitting in the garage. I had a .357, 2 bullets in it, and I could not live with self. I would put it in my head, put it back down, put it in my head, put it back down, smoke meth, put it in my head, and I picked up my sketchbook and I drew, and this is me drawing this, and by the time I finished this, I no longer committed the act. That's the power of art, because that was a reflecting mirror image of my talent, my skill, and I wasn't gonna let no one take it away but me, so that helped me not pull the trigger, trip out on that. That's the power of art. And so then eventually the second suicide attempt, and when my life starts to change, was my poor mom has already been begging and pleading and on her knees telling me, please stop, Fabián, please stop. I don't know what's gonna happen with you. So she says, if I come home and you're doing drugs in my house, I'm gonna call the police. So my mom called the police on me like 3-4 times. She put me in jail like 3-4 times. So I knew she would mean business. And I remember she goes, right, I already told you, if I come home, I'm 30 years old at the time, by this time. So from the age of 13 all the way to the age of 30. And so then she goes to work, and Elizabeth's there, all traumatized with the kids. And I say, ooh, my mom's gonna come home, help me get into the attic, because if she sees me using drugs, she's gonna call the police. So I go up to the attic, smoking methamphetamine, and then I say, oh, wait a minute, I gotta go to the front of the house and keep my eye on Elizabeth through the vents, because she's with every man in the block. That's what the paranoia was telling me. So as I'm watching Elizabeth, I remember my mom walks in, boom, Fabián, first name that comes out of her mouth. Now I'm upstairs in the attic, I'm like, all paranoid on methamphetamine, and mom's already walking in every room, Fabián, looking for me, and I'm like, I better be quiet, my mom's right here. And then to my luck, she comes and sits right underneath of where I'm at in the attic to watch the soap operas. So the only thing between us is the ceiling. I'm like, shit. And so I go, okay, be quiet, fool, because if she calls it, call the police, you're going to go to prison. If you go to prison, you're going to lose this, and if you lose this, all methamphetamine, right? So I go, okay, let me go to the back of the attic. Damn, old-ass house, man, that shit fucking gets stuck in, and I'm stuck right there, and I'm like, all right, fool, try it again, fool, don't make too much noise. God damn old ass house. And as I'm stuck right there with the pipe in one hand, the lighter in the other, methamphetamine in my pocket, now I'm starting to sweat, and I'm experiencing an overdose. And I better get out of this attic. And so the best way to get out of the attic was to bust a hole through the drywall. So you just imagine Fabian and Mom watching the soap opera, Zaku, and then boom, ta-da, ¿qué pasó? And Mama like, hijo de tu, all these beautiful names in Spanish, right? And I remember in that moment when she sees me fall from the ceiling, she was so spooked, and then she's like, pendejo, baboso, all this names. And as she's yelling at me, I'm staring at her in the eye. And I'm being grateful for everything that she's done for me. I turn to Elizabeth, and she shakes her head in shame, and my kids are in fear hugging their mama. And I look at them, and I'm dismissing myself because I'm going to go kill myself, and this time I'm not going to fail. I'll be a fool if I continue to hurt my children the way my dad did me, the easy way out. So I run out of my mother's house, run down Hollenbeck to Hollenbeck Park in Boyle Heights. As I'm making way through Hollenbeck Park, I jump into the pond. I get out of the pond, make my way up to the hills, up to the 5 South Freeway, and now I'm walking on the edge of the freeway wall, and it's not leading me anywhere. So then I hang by the freeway wall, land my knees into my jaw, boom, rip my tongue open, full of blood, smoked out, full of water. Can't go home. Cops are coming. 3-year joint suspension. You're going to prison. But I said I'd rather be dead than to go to prison. I'd be a fool if I do. Walking on the edge of the freeway wall, I remember the voice comes back, and this time it comes more amplified. Kill yourself. Kill yourself. Now there's a spiritual warfare taking place in my head, and it was getting so loud, so confusing that I couldn't deal with this. So I shut my ears and I yelled to the sky, and I said, "Fuck," to the gods. And I ran across the freeway. Boom. First lane, second lane, third lane, ain't no turning back. Cars are coming, I'm gone. And full speed, trying to get to the center divider. And in this moment, I see a turquoise Suburban truck. And it's getting closer, it's coming, it's not stopping, I'm running. And I say, this is it. I twist my body, clench my fist, and in this moment I said, my kids! Let's cry for help. And something spiritual took place. Boom, I felt the impact. Hit my shit so hard in the center divider, and then I just hear, I'm in awe at the fact that the truck did not hit me. I sit on the center divider, and I look to the sky, and I see the sun rays dancing beautifully, and I receive the feelings of peace, joy, happiness, and serenity, the feelings that can only come from a higher being, a higher source, my God. Well, that day I learned and understood that every son must return to his father. That day I did, and the thought of my children was the purpose why he allowed me to live. Rebirth. Now I'm enjoying the shit out of the spiritual awakening all up in the freeway, and all of a sudden as reality kicks in, get off the freeway, guns drawn, highway patrol, and I'm like, oh man, you just woke my ass up. And so as I'm doing that, I'm walking on the side, oh, you got me, sir, you got me, sir. And I ran until they had stopped the freeway for me. So I ran across and I went back down and I called a woman, the most beautiful woman to me in this world, who has not yet till this day betrayed me. Amá, hijo de tu pinche madre, me hiciste un techo en el hoyo, pendejo baboso. Mom, I almost got killed today. Shh, ¿dónde estás, mijo? In the projects. I'm on my way. When Mom rolls up, she sees her son standing by the payphone, full of water, smoked out the game, full of blood, tongue ripped open. But what Mom could not see was the touch of God that I discovered in the freeway incident. Súbete, pendejo. I get in the car. Now we're going, making way. I say, where's Elizabeth? I don't know. And the kids, we will see. Like, damn. I go, guess, and she goes, ay, mijo, I don't know what's going to be of you. Either you're going to kill me or you're going to kill yourself. I know, Mom, but guess what? ¿Qué pendejo? I think I have a drug problem. You stupid motherfucker, I've been trying to tell you for the past 15 years. I said, I know, Mom. And we both laughed just like this, because that was God, right? So I went home, and once we arrived, Elizabeth was there, and I decided I didn't make no more promise. I said, things will be different. Please stay by me. Please stay by me. Mom, please stay by me. Went to Salvation Army. I did rehab 6 months, and I started to unpackage all the hurt that my dad instilled in me, abuse, neglect, abandonment, and low self-esteem and demoralization that came from my father. Once I unpackaged all that, did the 12-step model recovery, now I'm free and sobriety, and I come to look for Father Greg, which brings me back to Homeboy Industry. And when I came to Homeboy Industry, I was a receptionist. Homeboy Industry, how can I help you? Homeboy Industry, how can I help you? Father Greg, what's up, son? And it's an amazing thing when I came back because Father, it's like the prodigal son must return. When Father Greg saw me, he said, son, where you been? Well, I'm here to see you, G. He goes, you always walk by my office and you never stop. Well, you would never hire me. And then he said, now sit your ass down, you're next, boy. So I sat there with my little completion of the certificate, all excited. So he walks onto the office and now he starts to weep and he cries and he says, son, where you been? I finally did what you asked me to do, G. He said, what's that? You said the minute I go deal with my drug problem, you will give me a stepping stone to get my life back on track. And then he says, he leans back, rubs his forehead, looks at his watch, and goes, damn, son, that took you some time. And I go, I know, G, but I did it. And I keep my promise, son. You start Monday. And the same feelings I received in the freeway incident were the same feelings I received when Father Greg hired me for the very first time. Now I know that mind, body, and spirit are out of line to something much greater. And so eventually, as receptionist, Homeboy Industry, how can I help you? Father Greg, what happened, son? Look, G, I got a proposition. What's that? I got 15 years of drug experience. Why don't you let me use it wisely? He said, damn, son, you're getting ahead of yourself. Why don't you start an AA meeting and work your way up? Sounds cool. AA meeting started. Then I decided to go back to school. And that's how I became a state certified drug counselor by the Board of California. Today I got my KDAC 2, which makes me a director of substance abuse services and programming within Homeboy Industries. That's one thing. And that's the recovery aspect of things, but Fabian has a gift, and this gift is art, and that's just been in his back pocket for a little minute. So Fabian has to pull out the secret weapon, the art. And so I start to have my first exhibit at Homeboy Industries, and I know that I wanted more. And so I start to tap into other artists. I'm a self-taught artist. I just tap on artists' shoulders if they intrigue me, and I say, hey, you got a little internship for me? And that's how I start to progress. And so eventually I start to hold exhibits, but I wanted more. Then I start to meet people. And then I said, you know what? God had a bigger plan for me. All this time, God was giving me a curriculum, a blueprint in how to utilize your gift, your skills, so you too can go back and utilize art as a way of healing. Because when Father Greg recognized your strength, your gift, and he returned it back to you, that's important. Then you were going to go to Youth Authority, and Father Greg stepped up and said, this kid got talent, he got potential. Why would you send him to jail? And he said, I'm ready to reconsider. And they sent me to the East Los Streetscapers to understand muralism, diversion. You see what I'm saying? So all these things that happened to me were become my blueprint. So eventually, I started to progress, and now today, not only that I'm a leader at Homeboy Industries, I'm part of the executive team, so I'm now on top making decisions that are best going to benefit the organization of Homeboy Industries, the director. I've also decided to utilize art, and I say, wait a minute, you need to build a school. So I connected with El PAN, which is Latino Producers Action Network, who saw me out. They love art, and they've been my patrons for the past 8 years, who gave me a studio in downtown LA. And so now I've created access. So I also created access to this population, the homeboys and the homegirls. You know, if I've gained access, it's important that I give access. And so that's what's helping me now. I have my own art academy that is in the beginning stages and is starting to get it recognized gradually. I made the Alley Weekly September last year. They capture a whole story on my approach in dealing with this population and the art academy. And so then, but the most important thing, man, is that my mom says to me, Mijo, I'm proud of you. You've returned 20 years of my life back. I can sleep at night now. And I don't ask her for shit now. I just take care of mama, you know. But, and another thing that's what, you know, a lot of things that I've learned throughout this is an image of my daughter, Honesty. So every time I create art, I try to utilize real people, because when they see themselves in these works of art, they become inspired and motivated. He chose me. You know, I must mean something. Actually, you do. And it's important that I bring you out to the world so they can too recognize your story and who you are. Because I can simply draw any women, but it's important that I acknowledge real people in my community. In this case, it's my daughter. And so then one story that I do have, and then we can tell the story of Mexico. Okay. Oh, I'm trying to keep time. Anyway, so a lot of things I experience now today, I start to travel internationally. I've traveled throughout the states. I'm starting to pave way through different institutions, in the art world per se. And one thing that I've learned is that today I'm the father figure. I have broken the cycle. I'm no longer angry at my father. I forgave him. I'm creating and I'm ready to paint a beautiful image of my father eventually. I've also worked at Otis College of Design as a liaison instructor, and behind that, I was able to get a show at the Bent Maltz Gallery with the help of Annie Buckley. And so for me, when they brought my work into the Bent Maltz Gallery, it gave me a little window, and it was like, yeah, dude, there it is. You're coming. Here it comes. And now I chase my dream as if it were my drug per se, So I learned how to flip the script. And I tell a story about Maya, this little girl here. She's like she's my little chicle, Everywhere I go, she's like everyone. She's the only one I had in sobriety, by the way. And so Maya comes to me and she goes, Daddy, Daddy. I say, yes, Maya. And she goes, I did a drawing. I go, no, you didn't. She goes, yes, I did. And she's hiding the drawing behind her back. And I go, let me see your drawing. And then she goes, you're going to laugh. I go, I'm not going to laugh, Maya. Let me see your drawing. She goes, all right, you better not laugh, Dad. I go, all right. So then she goes, boom. And there's all these little stick figures, right? And then I'm like, oh, my God, Maya, did you do that? Yes. Now she's all conceited, right? And then I go, ooh, you know who Frida Kahlo is, Ma? No, who's Frida? Frida is a great Mexican painter, Mom, but you know what? I think you're better. So what I'm going to do is take this drawing, put it in my studio, so you and I can give them competition. So what I just did there is that I acknowledge my daughter. I have given her self-worth. I made her believe that no matter what she creates is bigger than her. I have inspired her and motivated her so that she foresee a future and not be in despair. That's how we begin to make an impact in gang culture. It's as simple as that, but very difficult to do. And for me, art has been a way to engage and bring the youth forth, is to how to utilize art to get into the core wound. Art drops defenses. And once you're creating, you get to engage in such way that they're not even in tune at the fact that they're giving me all the information needed to start to make those connections to the wraparound services that exist at Homeboy Industries. That's the beauty of art. And so behind this image, I know that I'm trying to keep time, but do you want me to talk about the Mexico painting? Oh, sorry, I'm getting it twisted. Anyway, so those are some of the stories. That's pretty much my keynote, but I mean, it's amazing what art can do. I mean, I don't know what I would do without the arts. I think I probably would have been dead for sure. And I remember, and today it's amazing. I met great people in the art world, and this is also my fight. I want to be able to show and demonstrate to the world that change is possible and healing is possible through art. And I know it is. I'm true testimony and evidence of what the power of art can be. And so, pretty much that's my story. I got a little derailed, but I hope that it was impactful. I hope there was some great insight. And I'm looking forward to the panels, and I'm looking forward to engage in conversation and in dialogue with any one of you. Pull me to the side, and we can begin conversations. Thank you for letting me share, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Come back up here with me. Hey.
Thank you.
Would you agree with me that he also has another career as an actor? You were one of the most incredible storytellers. Wow. He's got it. So we have about 2 minutes. Does anyone have any questions that you would like of Fabian, or observations or something you would like to say? And we have this as well as my magic box.
Do you have any questions?
Over here. Here, I'm going to throw this back to you, okay? Here you go.
I just wondered about your brother. Was he able to escape this cycle, or did he have a similar journey?
Well, the thing about it was that I've seen two sides of my father. I saw the great side of my father, the man who he really was, and my brother and sister were pretty much born into heroinism. so they didn't feel that impact. Although I asked my brother, why didn't you join the gang? And my little sister, why didn't you? She goes, hell nah, fool. I didn't like the way you were, all that hurt you were bringing to my mom. So pretty much my decisions kind of helped them stay on that lane. And my sister's a registered nurse, and my brother's an X-ray technician who also does art, film and all that. So they really didn't get impacted. Yeah, they experiment with a little bit, not my sister, but my brother experiments with a little bit of the drugs, but he's never really fell into the jail system or like what I did, what I went through. I think I took the hit and then, was able to see it through. And by the way, I still have a relationship with Fabian Jr. He's 17 years old. He's not experimenting with drugs. He still doesn't have a girlfriend. He's in the basketball team in Wilson High School. So Fabian Jr. is still in my life, even though I, got taken away. So I just want to say, I forget to say, and people always ask, what happened to Fabian Jr.? He's still in my life, so to this day. So that's a good thing. So everything is possible, right? Any other questions?
Yeah, right here.
You talked about consistency and how your mom and Father G were always there. And I'm wondering what that looks like or the role that it's playing in the program that you've built now, if that sort of consistency or availability is there.
Oh, it has to be. Relationship building that's key. That's the antidote to have people help progress and transform their lives. Because a lot of these times, these kids, these youth, or these adults have been betrayed by their own loved ones, mother, father. They've been neglected. So you're asking me to give up everything I know, which is gang culture. Why should I trust you? I'm willing to do it, but you better not leave me behind. Because if I take 2 steps forward and you don't show up and meet me there, I'm going to take 20 back even harder. So relationships very important. Consistency is very important because then that shows many levels, right? Love, compassion, understanding, they're with me, trust, and all that loyalty, all that stuff happens if we're consistent. And then that's why Father Greg, I knew exactly where to come to because he was constantly consistent. So when I was ready to make that change, I knew exactly where he was. Everything made sense. And planting seeds at a very young age, all those little seeds that were planted when I was a kid, you got potential. You could be the next Picasso. You got skills, son. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Knowledge is power. All that crazy stuff, but it made sense when I went to rehab. It's like, whoa, they start to make sense. So all those seeds that we plant in the early stages, they do flourish eventually. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You want to throw her back the box? Yeah. Stand up, please. This will be the last question.
Stand up. Okay. So as survivors of child abuse, as you know, we're taught to protect our perpetrator, compounded by religion, who teaches us to honor thy mother and father. I would like to hear from you what your personal process was when you began to finally speak publicly about the abuse you suffered at the hands of your parents. Was there a conflict within you to want to protect them?
Not, at first I was like, my dad was my enemy, everything. F that dude, he no good, blah, blah, blah. But then I became my father. And I knew that if my father had an opportunity to go to rehab and deal with his trauma, maybe then he wouldn't have caused the hurt he did onto us. And guess what, Fabian? You're a drug addict, and you're just like your father. And now you're causing the same trauma to your children. It was because of heroin. And so it made it that much easier for me to forgive my father because I was a meth addict, and it's because of meth and drug addiction that I was causing hurt, not because I wanted to. I was transmitting the same pain that was transmitted onto me. But if my dad had a choice, as I did, I bet he would have went in rehab and took care of it, and they would have been all gravy. So that's the key to forgive father and understand behind his addiction is why I was hurt. And my dad's okay, because sometimes survivor's guilt kicks in. I shouldn't be talking about my dad like that and shit. He's probably going to be tripping. Nah, my dad says, dale gas, mijo. Let them know what's up. He's okay with me sharing. I think so. I talk to him every day, every other day. So anyways, I forgive my dad. It was easy for me.
Another round of applause, please.